This program presented by Gardner Holden. Remember, you won't pay through the nose at Gardner Holden, Albany Highway, Cannington.
Tonight, a dying smoker triumphs over a tobacco giant. Colin Powell's mission for Mid-East peace. And a not-so-charitable Rose Porteous.
With Anne Fulwood, this is 7 News.
Good evening. Tonight, a Victorian grandmother who is dying of lung cancer has become the first Australian to take on a tobacco giant and win. Rolla McCabe was today awarded $710,000 in damages after exposing a conspiracy to cover up the deadly effects of smoking.
Rolla McCabe has been told she may die before the end of the year. Her legacy, though, will be significant. She's the first Australian to successfully sue a tobacco company, a victory not just for herself, but potentially for the 20,000 Australians who die from smoking-related illness each year.
The landscape has now totally changed. Now smokers understand that indeed they may very well have a case.
The 51-year-old grandmother's case was entirely circumstantial because British American Tobacco, formerly known as Wills, had destroyed any evidence she could have used in her defence.
They made a product available to kids like me. I was 12. They knew it caused cancer and they knew it was addictive.
The tobacco giant said documents were shredded because it was too expensive to house them. Justice Jeffrey Eames didn't believe them. He said BAT had been anticipating a wave of litigation since 1985 and that the predominant purpose of document destruction was the denial of information likely to be of importance in proving a case. In Rolla's case, that the tobacco giant knew smoking was poisonous and addictive and that it continued to market its product to teenagers.
Get them hooked when they're kids. Make sure that by the time they get to exercise any sort of adult decision about it at all, they're already addicted.
Rolla McCabe was addicted before she was a teenager.
Girl, I started smoking because I thought it was a cool and an adult thing to do. I want to say to young girls today, don't make my mistake.
BAT will appeal the decision. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
The US Secretary of State, Colin Powell, arrives in the Middle East later tonight on a mission to secure a ceasefire. He'll meet both the Israeli Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, and the Palestinian leader, Yasser Arafat. His trip following yet another suicide bombing.
In the Israeli town of Hebron this morning, a failed suicide bombing attempt. The explosive belt detonating prematurely, killing only the bomber. But between the 8 Israeli civilians who died in Wednesday's bus bombing and the 13 soldiers killed in an ambush Tuesday, Israel, far from ending its bloody siege of the West Bank, is instead pressing forward, raiding 2 more towns and a Palestinian refugee camp overnight, even as its troops withdraw from some 24 other small villages. It's our right to defend our citizens, says Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, adding, there should be no pressure put on us not to do that. This morning, with Palestinian women and children huddling in the Jenin refugee camp, the last of a die-hard group of gunmen reportedly surrender, where hundreds died. Secretary of State Powell arrives tonight, and over the next several days, will meet with Sharon and then Yasser Arafat, the Palestinian leader seen here for the first time in 10 days. Powell insisting his bid for peace is not dead.
My mission is still on. I'm not concerned about it. I am looking forward to the opportunity to meet with Prime Minister Sharon and with Chairman Arafat.
But this morning, Israel releases a treasure trove of new documents found in Arafat's Jerusalem headquarters, which the Israelis claim tie Arafat directly to the funding of suicide attacks.
If the usage of suicide bombers against a democracy will prove successful, it is not going to end here. It will get to the United States via Europe, or perhaps to Europe via the United States.
Queensland police are hunting the killer of a British backpacker. They believe 19-year-old Carolyn Stuttle was robbed, then thrown from the Burnett River Bridge in Bundaberg. Her travelling companion told police she'd been staying at a nearby caravan park and had walked into Bundaberg to make a phone call. She'd been in Australia just a few weeks. A Sydney truckie who killed 2 young sisters in a road crash could spend just a year in jail. The girls' parents are devastated. Prosecutors are now considering an appeal.
This accident claimed the lives of 4-year-old Grace Dawson and her 2-year-old sister Jessica. Their brother Johnny and 11-year-old Natalie Price were seriously injured. Anthony Clampett-Watton crashed his 6.5-tonne truck into the back of the car carrying the children. It was a fine day, the road surface was good and the truck was mechanically sound, yet Clampett-Watton did nothing to prevent the accident. The truckie, who suffers sleep apnea, claimed he was experiencing a micro-sleep at the time of the crash. A district court jury and Judge Paul Urquhart disagreed, jailing Clampett-Watton for a maximum 2 years. The girl's devastated father could barely respond.
All I can say is he got 2 years and we got life.
During Clampett-Watton's trial, 2 witnesses said they saw the truckie look down, glance up, then look down again just moments before the impact. Judge Urquhart said Clampett-Watton was taking a calculated risk. The judge told the court, momentary inattention does not describe adequately the serious disregard by the offender of his obligations as a driver of that vehicle on that occasion. Anthony Clampett-Watton is due for release on parole on the 10th of April next year. Attorney General Bob Debus has asked the Director of Public Prosecutions whether there are grounds to appeal against the leniency of the sentence. Damien Smith, 7 News.
The partner of well-known Melbourne restaurateur Mietta O'Donnell is facing charges over her death. Mietta was killed in a road accident in Tasmania last year.
In life, he was her soulmate, but today Tony Knox faced driving charges relating to the tragic death of his long-time love, Melbourne restaurateur Mietta O'Donnell. He cut her sombre figure, arriving at court with Mietta's sister Patricia and other relatives. The hearing was told the pair were travelling through Tasmania on January 4 last year, when the hire car Tony was driving collided head-on with another vehicle. Mietta and the driver of the other car, Glenn Harmon, were killed. Mr Knox wept quietly as details of the terrible minutes following the accident were relayed to the court. Witnesses told how they desperately tried to help Mietta while her partner stood beside the car, injured and in shock, repeatedly asking, "Oh my God, what have I done?" His defence counsel Greg Richardson said there was no suggestion his client was speeding, overtaking or affected by alcohol. This was simply a tragic accident that happened when the car inexplicably struck gravel and lost control. In his final submission, he argued Mr Knox was not negligent, but rather may have failed to pay due attention to the road. But prosecutor Nick Perks said an ordinary prudent driver would not allow his vehicle to veer off the roadway as the defendant did in this case. A decision is expected on April 30. Emma Power, 7 News.
Australia's unemployment rate has reached its lowest level in 14 months, but the good news for many job seekers may hurt home buyers.
It's boom time in the employment market, with 105,000 new jobs created so far this year. In March, the unemployment rate was 6.3%. Down 0.3%. The only increase was in New South Wales, with Victoria and Western Australia both dropping below 6%.
We are leading the world in terms of growth, and we're now beginning to see a dividend in relation to employment outcomes.
Even the opposition's grudgingly welcomed the figures.
But you can't rest on them and be satisfied about them, because 6.3% is much too high.
But the downside is interest rates. With the economy accelerating, inflation's also on the rise. The experts say that means an almost certain increase in rates early next month.
There's also a growing chance that after the next meeting of the Reserve Bank, that they will raise rates not by a 1/4 percentage point, but by a 1/2 percentage point.
The government will have a chance to ease the pressure on rates in the May budget. That's by bringing in a surplus. And the fall in unemployment presents an opportunity to do just that, with reports today suggesting $120 million may be cut from jobless programs.
As for speculation about what might or might not be in the budget, really people will just have to restrain their curiosity.
In Canberra, Glenn Milne, 7 News.
Well, the federal government has announced major changes to the way we house asylum seekers. One of our most notorious detention centres will be scaled back, while another is to close.
Detainee places at the Woomera Detention Centre, scene of some of the most violent uprisings, will be more than halved, from 2,000 to 800. Curtin in Western Australia, which can hold up to 1,200 illegal arrivals, will be closed. A new facility, Baxter, near Port Augusta in South Australia, is expected to be open for business by the middle of the year.
Either all of Curtin to Baxter, or a mixture of Curtin and Woomera detainees to Baxter. I mean, I think that is the more likely outcome.
It will house up to 1,200 people. Mr Ruddock claiming illegal arrivals will be better accommodated.
The rooms involve about 2 people to a room and have en-suites.
But Port Augusta's mayor says the refugees aren't welcome.
I said to him, well, what guarantee have you that they're not going to do the same to Baxter that they did to Woomera? He said no guarantee whatsoever.
The government's also facing a fight in Brisbane following its announcement of a new detention centre at Pinkenba, near the city's airport. The new arrangement means Australia will have the capacity to house up to 4,000 asylum seekers. The government hopes it'll never see all those places taken up. In Canberra, Jeff Parry, 7 News.
Well, the Perth socialite Rose Porteous has hit the headlines again. She's been accused of spending thousands of dollars raised at a charity event on personal expenses, like cleaning the chandeliers in her Perth mansion.
Rose Porteous is never far from the social spotlight. Today, though, she came under the glare of State Parliament.
I have nothing to fear about.
Mrs Porteous is accused of misusing charity money from a fashion parade held at her Mosman Park mansion last December.
The fashion parade was a disaster.
Under the protection of parliamentary privilege, Labor MP John Hyde claimed the event raised more than $15,000. Every cent was supposed to go to Fremantle Hospital.
So $15,860 comes in for the fashion parade through donations. Is the return 100 cents in the dollar? No.
According to Mr Hyde, this is where the money went. $8,400 for a video of the fashion parade, $1,200 for a choreographer, and $469 on ingredients for the punch.
It was a sangria. Dear, it was a sangria. Do you know what is in a sangria?
Another $872 was for dry cleaning, $479 to hire clothes racks, $4,820 for catering, and $475 to clean the chandelier.
Do you know what it's like to clean those chandeliers? I can't do it myself.
In total, more than $14,000 went on expenses.
If every fashion parade, if everything I put on, I will cover all expenses, you know, it'll drive me out in the streets.
Fremantle Hospital did receive a cheque for $22,000 from the Rosemarie Porteous Foundation last month, but that money came from a garden party held at Preda more recently, not the fashion parade. Simon Dowding, 7 News.
Stay with us after the break. Dozens missing in a Philippines ferry fire. And then on the road with Sydney's oldest driver.
Guys, thanks for coming along. What Perth wants is the inside story. I'm going to show you the secret weapon that will help us deliver Perth's football exclusives. It's inside information on the AFL. Our viewers will go inside the game, the players, the match strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Woosha.
Watch our exclusive reports from the men on the ground every night on 7 News. Inside AFL, only on 7 News.
Brian Gardner Holden announces the arrival of the new exhilarating range of VX HSVs, featuring the powerful Generation 3 5.7 litre V8, and a lineup which includes Club Sport, Senator, GTS, and Grange. Test drive the luxury and the power today. Remember, you won't pay through the nose for HSV at Brian Gardner Holden, Albany Highway, Cannington.
Hutchison Entertainment Group presents on their 25th Sellout World Tour, the Red Army Choir and Dance Ensemble. This stunning, beautiful and electrifying show has been hailed by critics as the show to break all barriers of song and dance. This fantastic, sensational and thrilling Russian ensemble is an experience not to be missed. The internationally acclaimed Red Army Choir and Dance Ensemble.
So, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking how lucky you are right now.
Thankfully, there's lots more guys to choose from at Lavalife. It's the newest place to click with people. I can either use my phone or the web to find the right guy for me.
I'm just not quite sure that hairstyle's right for you.
I just exchange messages with them and find someone that I click with.
I think you look beautiful tonight.
Oh, what
The designer brand sale, for your eyes only, at Just Spectacles. Gucci, Blue Marine, Dahui, Oroton and Lacoste, complete with prescription lenses, only $179. And get another complete pair free from the free frame range of 400 frames. All the big brands for an incredible $179. And get another pair free, for your eyes only. The designer brand sale at Just Spectacles, this month only.
Tonight's finance report brought to you by Navigator, the new way of investing.
Now to finance news, and Anglo Coal has confirmed it will buy a stake in the Maura mine from Mitsui. As finance reporter Oriel Morrison explains, the deal ends months of speculation.
Anglo Coal will pay Mitsui a net cash payment of over $20 million and will acquire a 51% interest in the mine. The venture between the two is said to be worth over $500 million. Shares in biotech company Peptech have slumped as much as 20% today after 3 directors resigned. Chairman Ed Twiddell walked out with 2 other directors, saying that a group of retail shareholders had been seeking their removal. Peptech shares have yo-yoed in the past couple of weeks. Only yesterday the group enjoyed a 13% jump. Its shares ended the day 27 cents lower at $2.62. Meantime, Brisbane-based Progen Industries has signed a $500,000 contract to test potential cholesterol treatments. US-based Lipid Sciences has co-signed on the deal. Progen says the contract confirms the company's international reputation. Turning to business in brief, Australian Pharmaceutical Industries and Sigma Company could find out in less than a week if the antitrust regulator will approve a merger. The possible merged entity would become the nation's largest distributor and retailer of drugs. News Corp executives will meet with 2 Coke banks on Friday to discuss a rescue of the German company's pay TV business. And retailer Gowing has posted a record $7.7 million first half net profit. To the markets, and fears of an interest rate rise thanks to a drop in unemployment weighed on our share market. The All Ords fell 7 points, the ASX 200 down 10. BHP Billiton slumped 31 cents, Coles gained 6 and Telstra gave up 2. The Australian dollar's buying over 53 US cents, 70 yen and 37 pence. To commodities, and gold's trading at $301 US an ounce, oil's a shade over $26 US a barrel. Overseas, Asian markets were mixed. And that's all from the Finance Centre. Have a great night.
Thank you, Oriel. Fire has engulfed a passenger ferry in the Philippines, killing at least 23 people. Almost 300 were aboard when disaster struck about 20 kilometres from the nearest port. Many of the victims drowned after jumping overboard to escape the flames. More than 30 passengers are missing. From Los Angeles, a reminder to always check the handbrake on your aircraft, that is. An empty Boeing 767 parked near an airport maintenance hangar rolled off the tarmac, crashing through a fence and onto a busy road. Amazingly, no one was injured. Airport officials say someone forgot to put on the parking brake. And a German zookeeper has saved the life of a baby tapir by giving it mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The tiny trotter was born buttocks first, is that breech, and then breathed in fluid during its birth. Luckily, little Carmina was saved by a man for whom dedication to the job is everything. You might think twice before doing it again. Carmina will look like her mother eventually, 350 kilos heavier and with a very nasty bite. Sydney's oldest driver's back behind the wheel for at least another year. David Sims admits the test was tough, but he passed with flying colours.
That's a 1975 Toyota Crown in there, David Sims' car. 180,000 on the clock and not a dent. You can back out on the mirrors. I can't do that. Mr. Sims is 100.
Well, I don't hit anybody, no, I avoid people hitting me, so that's how good I am.
He's just passed his annual driving test. They're pretty tough on old blokes.
And he threw everything at me. Do this, do that, give way.
At first, they busted him back to a learner's permit. 10 days later, he did the test again.
No problem at all. Matter of fact, the examiner finished. He said, "You drive very well."
He can't drive at night or go more than 20 kilometres from home and has to wear the glasses.
I really don't need these. I can see a way but this all that.
He's never had a speeding ticket and says even his wife thinks he's good.
She's always saying you're a wonderful driver, you're driving well.
And she's your wife?
Yes.
Myrtle says it's her cooking that keeps him going.
No fat in the cooking. I'm a low-fat cooker.
Mr. Sims thinks really everyone should lose their licence at 95, except women, who should have it taken away at 80. You can say things like that when you're 100.
Bye-bye.
Paul Marshall, 7 News.
I'll be back with the latest sports news after the break.
Revved up and raring to go.
Hang on!
Herbie's here.
How can that car do those things?
The little car that comes to life.
Can't seem to stop this thing.
Is in the race of his life.
We're up against more horsepower, faster aerodynamics. We could get our tails kicked.
May the best car win. This is where we say ciao.
The little bug in a big adventure.
He's not trying to beat us, he's trying to kill us.
The Love Bug, Saturday 7:30 on 7.
Gardner Holden has a huge range of quality new and used cars all under one big roof in Perth. And he's now offering unbeatable deals on the complete range of new Holdens, including the stunning Euro-styled Astra and Vectra, Australia's best-selling family car, Commodore, and the impressive new BU Ute. And remember, you won't pay through the nose at Gardner Holden, Albany Highway, Cannington.
Need new tyres?
And new wheels?
But have no cash.
No
worries.
There's no deposit and no interest.
For 12 months.
That's no deposit
And no interest.
for 12 months from Bob.
Bob who?
What sort of person are you in the morning? One that's easily irritated? Nivea for Men Aftershave Balm soothes and moisturises your skin after every shave. Nivea for Men Aftershave Balm, for men who dare to care.
Real TV, we've just closed for the night. It's just after midnight. We're at the biggest ever manufacturer's clearance of intimate apparel. I mean, ever. I don't know what you're doing in the morning, but I can tell you, ladies, there really is still a lot of stock left over. Have a look around. Do yourself a favour. Get in the car early. The guys will be in here from around 9 a.m, and I guarantee you will not only be amazed by how much stock is down here, but you will get yourself some superb intimate apparel. The brands you know, and you're probably already wearing, for what can only be described as stupid prices. Look at this bra. The sticker is still on it. Come and have a look for yourself. It was $54. We did have $20 on them. 40% off now. Try $12. From 9 a.m. this morning until it's all gone, everything is reduced by a further 40%. No conditions, no exceptions. The Burswood Dome, opposite the Burswood Casino. First in, best dressed, literally. Doors open at 9 a.m. I'll see you there.
Now to news in sport and in AFL. An interim broadcast deal reached today is cold comfort for fans in northern states, according to Shadow Communications Minister Lindsay Tanner. The AFL says it's reached agreement with rights holders to show Friday night games earlier, but it is only on pay TV. Mr Tanner says the bottom line is that fans who used to receive live AFL coverage on free-to-air TV will now have to pay for it, and many fans cannot afford it. All this on a day the Players Association was under attack again, this time from a high-profile club president.
Tough talk from the Players Association was met head-on by Maguire. If it's a fight the players want when they sit down to negotiate the next collective bargaining agreement, it's a fight they'll get.
If he reckons that the AFL Players Association have called for him to pull out the bat, well then I tell you what, 16 club presidents will be telling the AFL to pull out the machine gun.
With the players to seek better pay and Gale saying not all players supported 10 teams in Victoria, the Kangaroos and Bulldogs are seen as most at risk. Roos CEO Michael Easy quick to echo Maguire's sentiments.
The reality is we've got 10 clubs. The 10 clubs are here to stay. The Kangaroos are here to stay.
2 weeks after the Bulldogs attracted just 18,000 to Colonial for their round 1 clash with Adelaide, Easy's calling on Roos supporters to be out in force at Saturday night's match against Geelong, saying if the poor crowds continue, the AFL will have to step in.
If the crowds are not supportive of the financial requirements of the clubs, then obviously the AFL and the clubs will need to look at the equalisation policy and which is currently up for review.
3 changes are expected at Carlton. Favola, Fletcher and Merrington, all regular members of the Blues senior lineup, have fallen foul at the selection table. Dumped for tomorrow night's blockbuster with the Magpies. They'll be replaced by Darren Hume returning from suspension, also back Freeborn and Gallagher. A major setback for the Bulldogs, Luke Penny straining his medial ligament late in their training session. Still unsure as to whether surgery is required, Penny will miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. And Hawthorn's Angelo Leckers has added fuel to the clash with Fremantle, quoted on the club's website saying the Hawks are better off without Trent Crode. Chris Jones, 7 News.
Now to rugby league, and Newcastle captain Andrew Johns has vowed to take full advantage of a depleted Roosters lineup for tonight's clash at Aussie Stadium.
The Knights are in town for their first time since last year's upset grand final win. Just like Parramatta then, Newcastle are hot favourites against the Roosters, but they don't intend getting sucked in by the hype.
It's not something you like to hear leading up to a game, I'd have to say.
I reiterate to the boys all the time that this game can sneak up and bite you in the backside if you're not ready.
With Andrew Johns in super form at halfback, the Knights are unbeaten. They lead the competition, but there's no sympathy for their injury-plagued opponents. The captain telling his young chargers to show the Roosters no mercy.
Didn't matter if they had, the big guns, Fittler, Fletcher playing, we're still going to turn up with the same attitude.
Adam McDougall has given the Knights a boost too. The test winger returning from a groin injury.
I'm happy, I suppose, a little bit nervous too. Obviously, a little bit worried about the groin. It's not 100% yet.
Already struggling for players, the Roosters have lost stand-in skipper Luke Ricketson after he was suspended for 1 week for a high tackle.
I think there's been a can of worms opened up on this sort of type of stuff, and these sort of things have happened in the past, and now we're getting pulled up from. So, as I said, pretty disappointing. I'm pretty sure I was not guilty.
Peter Cusack is now captain. Patrick Mollahan, 7 News.
Now, the US Masters is underway in Augusta, Georgia, with the rookie Adam Scott firming in late betting. His winning price has halved, but Tiger Woods remains the favourite to retain the green jacket.
The course has been lengthened, security tightened, and the world's best golfers are in place. Japan's Toshi Izawa hoping to repeat his practice round performance when the tournament starts tomorrow. Many believe Tiger Woods is responsible for changes to the course. The world #1 has little doubt.
I won with 16, 18 under, and they don't want to see it that high, that low.
Spain's Jose Maria Olazabal spent time practicing his water skimming techniques. Unfortunately, none made it. Manchester United and England captain David Beckham could be sidelined for 8 weeks.
Good challenge by Duchesne. Well, he was showing too much of his studs.
The crude tackle in the European Champions League match sent Beckham crashing to the ground. He hobbled off, but in deep pain was quickly on a stretcher and into an ambulance. X-rays later confirming a broken bone in his foot, an injury certain to keep him out of England's World Cup squad. Manchester won the game to make the semi-finals. Australia's one-day cricket squad has arrived home after the crushing 5-1 series win over South Africa. Based on its recent performance, one-day captain Ricky Ponting believes his side is on target for next year's World Cup.
We got to play on most of the grounds that we're going to be playing on during the World Cup, and we won on most of those grounds, so we should have some pretty good confidence going back there next time.
With the tour to Zimbabwe cancelled, Australia's next opponents, Pakistan, indoors in Melbourne in June. Kevin Barashon, 7 News.
Now let's check the weather forecast. And Brisbane expecting a cloudy 27 degrees tomorrow, a bit of rain about perhaps. Sunny, 26 for Sydney, 27 in Canberra. Showers about in Melbourne and Adelaide, 26 and 23. All clear in Perth, 27 degrees, warm and 35 in Broome, and a bit stormy in Darwin. And that's all we have from the 7 Newsroom for now. Sunrise, the next bulletin coming up soon at 6 a.m. I'm Anne Fulwood. Good night.